शुरुआत है, बट लॉट ऑफ गुड वाइब्स कमिंग इन फ्रॉम द इंडियन क्रिकेट टीम, क्योंकि कल रात को हैदराबाद में खेले गए तीसरे वनडे T20 मैच को, माफी चाहूंगा, इंडिया वन दैट मैच एंड व्हाट अ मैच इट वाज। मनोरंजन भरपूर, पूरा पैसा वसूल मैच था। आई थॉट फ्रैंकली इट शुड नॉट हैव गॉन that far down to the wire, which I think Virat Kohli himself mentioned at the end. But we got runs from Virat, we got runs from Surya Kumar Yadav, Akshay Patel, another fantastic match, 3 wickets to become the player of the series. बहुत कुछ है दोस्तों आज के शो में बात करने के लिए। मेरे साथ जुड़ेंगे एनी मोमेंट नाउ अयान आचार्य, स्पोर्ट्स राइटर विद स्पोर्ट्स स्टार, a magazine who I personally can say I've been reading for a long, long time, going back to my school days. और जब मैं कॉलेज में था अमेरिका में, so I even had subscriptions come all the way there. This was in the pre-digital era. Well, I wouldn't say pre-digital era because net was of course around in the US, but यहाँ इंडिया में नेट थोड़ा इतना मजबूत नहीं था उस समय, अगर हम 99 से लेके 2003 की बात करें. But for those 3.5 years, the people, the good people at Sports Stars sent me every week without fail, more or less, a copy of Sports Star. So very, very glad to have someone who's associated with a magazine like the Sports Star, with a magazine, with a newspaper, I'm sorry, like the Hindu, Ayan Acharya. जर्नलिस्ट हैं, हाल ही में वो एशिया कप में थे, तो उनसे लेके वो भी बात करेंगे. बिफोर वी प्रोसीड दो, आई वांट लेट यू नो दैट टुमारो इज वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे, और इसको लेके मैंने सोचा थोड़ा हम क्रिकेट को लेके वर्ल्ड विजन के बारे में बात करेंगे फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ what are some of the more famous cricket series that Ayan and I have seen in recent times, as well as ones where we may have gone to cover it, given the fact that we are both sports journalists. तो स्वागत है आपका इस शो पे. Hi, say hi. We have Thimaraju V is a new follower. Welcome. If you have any comments, please post them. If you just want to say hi, you can also go ahead and do that. And Ayan will be joining us any moment now. Also want to take this chance to let you know कि आप ग्लांस लॉक स्क्रीन को सोशल मीडिया पे फॉलो कर सकते हैं. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Just search Glance Lock Screen. Follow us. Stay updated for all the latest happenings in the world of live streaming content. आपका दिन कैसा चल रहा है, आप भी मुझे यहाँ पे बता सकते हैं. Like I said, any questions for me, any questions for our guest Ayan about cricket, feel free to ask us. शो के चलते हम बात भी करेंगे सीरीज के बारे में जो कल इंडिया जीती 2-1 के मार्जिन से. A few key takeaways, keeping in mind the fact that we have the T20 World Cup starting literally a few weeks from now. So yes, any second now, Ayan will join. Let's see where he can get in. Just see if anything's okay. लेट्स सी वेयर इट गोस. तो हाँ दोस्तों, वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे 2022 कल का दिन है, ट्यूसडे के दिन, सितंबर 27. इसी को लेके बहुत सारे शोज आप देख सकते हैं ग्लांस लॉक स्क्रीन पे, रपोसो लॉक स्क्रीन पे. आज के दिन, कल के दिन और आज का जो शो है मेरा, द ऑल्टरनेट व्यू, थोड़ी सी पेशकश है मेरी तरफ और टीम की तरफ टू कंबाइन क्रिकेट एज वेल एज वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे. खुद की बात करूं तो आई हैव द फॉर्चून, मेरा सौभाग्य रहा है कि मुझे मौका मिला है ऑस्ट्रेलिया, न्यूजीलैंड, इंग्लैंड, श्रीलंका जाने का, मैचेस कवर करने के लिए. बांग्लादेश भी जा चुका हूँ. अनफॉर्चुनेटली वेस्ट इंडीज अब तक साउथ अफ्रीका नहीं जा पाया हूँ मैं. होपफुली आई गेट टू टिक दोज ऑफ ऑन माई लिस्ट ऑफ, आई वोंट से अचीवमेंट्स, बट ऑन माई लिस्ट ऑफ एक्सपीरियंसेस कवरिंग क्रिकेट. तो आपकी कौन सी सबसे फेवरेट देश हैं क्रिकेट देखने के लिए? एनी फेवरेट कंट्रीज वे यू लाइक टू वॉच क्रिकेट? जरूरी नहीं है कि आप वहां गए हो, पर अगर आप कभी रेडियो पे, बचपन पे या टीवी में, व्हाट आर द कंट्रीज दैट यू वुडंट माइंड वॉचिंग क्रिकेट इन? एंड व्हेन आई से यू वुडंट माइंड, खुद की बात करूं तो आपको याद होगा सुबह सुबह की बात होती थी विंटर्स के टाइम पे, जब इंडियन टीम कभी ऑस्ट्रेलिया जाती थी, तो सुबह 5, 5:30 बजे विंटर के ठंड में, सर्दियों के महीनों में उठ के, कंबल ओढ़ के जाके हॉल में टीवी ऑन करना, बिल्कुल म्यूट, ताकि पिताजी माताजी ना उठे, एंड टू वॉच क्रिकेट. नॉट जस्ट द इंडियन टीम, आई मस्ट ऐड. मैं तो बहुत बार साउथ अफ्रीका वर्सेस ऑस्ट्रेलिया, न्यूजीलैंड वर्सेस ऑस्ट्रेलिया, द एशेज ऑफ कोर्स, पाकिस्तान वर्सेस साउथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया. बहुत सारी टीम्स हैं जो जाती थी वहां पे 90s के टाइम पे. अकमल गनी कह रहे हैं हाय हाय. अकमल कैसे हैं आप? वेलकम टू द शो. कमेंट करिए, लाइक करिए. लेट्स सी how many people we get. I'm very fine, thank you. Karthik Yadav saying hi with 3 eyes. Hi, 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 hi. Karthik, I'm very well. How are you doing? Good to see some familiar faces here, some familiar names. आप comment डालिए मेरे लिए, तब तक मैं कॉफी पीता हूँ बिफोर आयान जॉइन्स द शो. तो हाँ, मैं कह रहा था ऑस्ट्रेलिया, क्योंकि कल वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे है. मेरा सौभाग्य था कि 2015 जो वन डे वर्ल्ड कप था, मैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया और न्यूजीलैंड गया था. सो लेट्स सी. आज आपके शो में कौन आ रहा है? लगता है आप थोड़े लेट जुड़े। आज मेरे शो पे द स्पोर्ट्स स्टार मैगज़ीन, जो कि द हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर की पेशकश है, सालों, सालों, सालों से ये एक बहुत ही अहम हिस्सा रह चुका है बहुत सारे इंडियन क्रिकेट प्रेमियों का। वहां से जुड़े स्पोर्ट्स राइटर अयान आचार्य हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगे एनी मोमेंट नाउ, जस्ट वेटिंग फॉर हिम टू जॉइन। और हम बात को आगे लेके जाएंगे कल के मैच के बारे में, एज वेल एज बिकॉज लाइक आई सेड बिफोर, अयान आचार्य जो हैं स्पोर्ट राइटर, वो एशिया कप गए थे हाल ही में, ही वाज एट द मैचेस, सो आई वांट टू पिक हिज ब्रेन्स अबाउट दैट एक्सपीरियंस, हाउ क्लोजली ही सॉ द इंडियन टीम एंड वेदर ही थिंक्स दिस टीम हैज प्रोग्रेस्ड ओवर दीज थ्री मैचेस अगेंस्ट ऑस्ट्रेलिया। साथ ही में, जैसे कि मैंने कहा था शो में, क्योंकि कल वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे 2022 है, तो अयान और मैं, और यहाँ पे मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोग भी अपने व्यूज शेयर करें, अपने कमेंट्स करें। What are some of the most famous cricketing countries? What are the most scenic cricket countries? I'll also share my experiences. बिल्कुल, अकमल गोनी ने कहा विराट कोहली जो है उनका फॉर्म वापस आ गया। खैर फॉर्म तो, और ये अयान से अच्छा कौन जानता है, क्योंकि अयान हाल ही में कुछ हफ्ते पहले एशिया कप कवर कर रहे थे। He was there when Virat Kohli's form returned, which I think prompted a collective sigh of relief from countless Indian cricket fans कि भाई विराट वापस फॉर्म में आ चुके हैं। अपना पहला शतक लगाया विराट कोहली ने अफगानिस्तान के अगेंस्ट एशिया कप में। और इस सीरीज में मैं कहता हूं थोड़ा लूक वार्म था, क्योंकि चलिए आई थिंक अगर हम इस सीरीज के बारे में बात करेंगे तो जो दूसरा मैच था, 8 ओवर का मैच जो था नागपुर में, बारिश 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 के कारण वो हमें हटाना पड़ा। बिकॉज एक सेकंड, अयान इज टाइपिंग समथिंग, गेट हिम ऑन द शो। हाँ तो हाँ, तो आई थिंक वी कैन डिस्कार्ड दैट मैच, क्योंकि उस मैच में जो है बहुत कम रन थे, तो टीम को बस मारने की जरूरत थी। आई नो दैट रोहित शर्मा गॉट 46 नॉट आउट, बट इट्स अ लिटिल बिट टफ टू बी टू हार्श ऑन people like KL Rahul and Virat Kohli in that match, क्योंकि उन्हें मारने की जरूरत थी। But barring that match, India did play some very very good cricket. पहले मैच में again बॉलर्स काम की नहीं है यार, ये डेथ बॉलिंग जो है ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम साबित हो रही है, और होपफुली वर्ल्ड कप से पहले ये प्रॉब्लम थोड़ा सॉल्व हो जाए। हाँ, एनीवेज, तो मैं बात कर रहा था इस थ्री मैच सीरीज के बारे में। अ फ्यू वीकनेसेस देयर, लाइक आई सेड, द डेथ बॉलिंग इज प्रॉब्लमैटिक। बुमराह वापस आए थे काफी समय बाद, हर्षल पटेल आए थे, दोनों ने काफी काफी पूरा प्रदर्शन किया इस सीरीज में। युजवेंद्र चहल भी काफी लुक वार्म थे, लैक लस्टर दिखे मुझे। लेकिन द पॉजिटिव्स अगेन, विराट कोहली, सूर्य कुमार यादव, आई थिंक अक्षर पटेल। आहा, आई हैव नाउ गॉट अ जॉइन रिक्वेस्ट फ्रॉम अयान आचार्य, सो विदाउट एनी फर्दर ड्यू लेट्स गेट हिम ऑन द शो। ओके, he's joined, I cannot hear him yet। कोई नहीं, जुड़ेंगे जुड़ेंगे जुड़ेंगे, शायद थोड़ा नेटवर्क।
Hi,
Hey Ayan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Jamie?
Very well, man. Good to see you. And like I said before you joined, Sports Star is such an uh,
Yeah,
iconic image in all of our minds. So it's good to see you in the office with so many Sports Star magazines behind. I was just telling our viewers that you were there at the Asia Cup. What was that
yeah.
like? Because a lot of focus, for obvious reasons, I've done many shows. I know you've written, you've also done some shows about it. Forget how India performed. What was it like to just be? Because after a long time, you got a chance to also go out and cover live cricket here.
It was great. I mean, amazing. Anything, well, in the UAE with the fans around is always great watching. And, Virat Kohli scoring that 100, of course, sent, well, strangely enough, it happened at a time when the Dubai stadium wasn't exactly full because by that time, India had crashed out, unfortunately, of the tournament. But nevertheless, what an innings. And it was also my first game at Sharjah. And I got to watch that Pakistan Afghanistan match which went down till the wire and went down the wire and I remember as I was writing the report and you usually keep two leads ready and it
At
one
least.
and yeah at least and then at one point it did look like we need a third lead for a super over but Naseem Shah of course not only dispelled those doubts but also crashed Afghanistan's hopes with that brilliant well, you can't really call it an innings because it was so short-lived. But I mean, boy, did it crash Afghanistan's hopes. But it was an amazing experience. Going there. It's a ground that is steeped in history. Growing up, you heard stories about Tendulkar's Desert Storm, and
Hmm.
Chetan Sharma's heart being broken by that last ball six. It's just and to go there and see, and there were a few guys who'd been working at the venue for the last 3 decades or so. So they would tell you where all the Indian film stars would be seated, and which way the sixes landed, which
Mm.
tent the ball landed on. Now, right or wrong, we don't know. There's no way to find that out. But they're so invested in it, so it was a lovely experience, nevertheless.
It's awesome to hear you talk about that, and I think it just underlines how privileged we are, Ayan, to get to do
Absolutely.
what we do. And the moment you said Sharjah, I literally got goosebumps because we're
Yeah.
here talking about cricket, but we're also talking about World Tourism Day and travel. I've not been to that part of the world, but I've always wanted to go to Sharjah
Right.
because for the reason that you just outlined, be it Sachin, be it Desert Storm, before that Imran
Right.
Khan, Kapil Dev, I mean, of course, Chetan Sharma, that six of Myanmar. But for me
Yeah.
personally, that I had never seen. In fact, I saw Javed Miandar on TV in the early '90s, but this
Right.
impression of this guy who broke, countless hearts is always linked with Sharjah. So really good
Yeah.
to hear you talk about that. But just keeping the trend of this show, today's episode, talking about places where either you've gone to watch cricket or your first memories. I was saying before you joined how New Zealand for me is this place where I always wanted to go because there are certain images of everything is green and pristine.
Yeah.
Are there certain countries where you also grew up? I want to go there someday. Is there a country where you love to just go and not as a reporter, maybe as a fan on holiday, just to watch some Test cricket?
Absolutely. England comes to mind immediately.
Ah,
You've watched so many great test matches there growing up on TV. We've discussed about the game. When you grow up and you want to be a cricket reporter, you talk about conditions, and you probably then don't understand how, or why the ball swings the way it does, or which way it's going to swing. But you're just fascinated by the sight of, those beautiful colors. I just feel that test cricket in England, because of the colors, it just comes alive. Of course the atmosphere is great, but then we have that atmosphere everywhere. But in general, just the background, the history of the game, and the way it lends itself to the matches that are played there, especially at Lords, it's just amazing. And you spoke of the test matches. I think one that immediately comes to mind, and is it's something that I've thought about of late. I
hmm,
feel the 2021 tour of England, India's tour of England, was something that I wish I had covered in person for multiple reasons. But chief
yeah.
among them would be the fact that I feel India's quest to become a leading test unit sort of reached a full circle there. Now, I say this having known that they lost the World Test Championship final, they lost to South Africa. But let's not forget, in 2018, it was that overseas cycle of England, South Africa, and Australia, where under Virat Kohli and then coach Ravi Shastri and Bharat Arun, that journey really began. And it reached sort of an apogee for me in that England tour. You had Rohit Sharma playing those glorious shots, the pull shots that are both his
Yeah,
route to
yeah.
stardom and the reason for his downfall. You had the tail wagging in a very entertaining manner. You had the fast bowlers, coming in and bowling with a lot of hostility, accuracy, and pace. So all in all, and to add to it, you have that manicured outfield, the lush green,
Hmm.
grass. It's just amazing. And for some reason, I thought the Duke's ball this time wasn't exactly red. It was the color was also a bit different. Perhaps that's it's just it's a very vivid image whenever I think of cricket in England, especially Test cricket. Is
Yeah.
That's one country I wish to go and cover cricket in, hopefully in the future.
No, you're spot on in obviously your analysis of how the Indian team's trajectory sort of maybe not peak, but I think had that
Yeah,
fifth Test match not been postponed, this was a
yeah,
terrific chance for Kohli's
right,
team to seal that series because a
right,
year later, so much had changed, so
right,
much had gone on.
yeah,
But again, England, green grass, a lot of
yeah,
overcast skies. Let's be honest here, a lot
yeah,
of damp conditions. It boggles the
right,
mind how, despite so many years, they don't have grounds. There are some grounds where it's very good, but the amount of matches that get affected by
right,
rain is part of the summer. But I think it's a part which fans embrace because it's such a beautiful place to just hang around. And
right,
Ayan, you mentioned about the fans. Their fans are, I mean, it's tough to sort of describe them in one word because they're so varied. Of course, I'm talking about the Barmy Army and all the lunatics they
yeah,
have. But you go there, like Headingley, Old Trafford, the fans become so much of that touring England experience, right? They're in drag, they're in the Flintstones, they're Elvis. they're stalwarts. Sometimes you see 15, 20 of these guys in the
Right.
same unit. I don't think there's any country, maybe Australia might come second, but it's a distinctive part. And now, we're talking about the future of one days and T20. I still think as long as these guys are around, and because it doesn't matter what the English team does, Ayan. If these
Yeah.
guys are there, you're still getting a lot of packed houses. It's
Yeah.
almost like a part and parcel of that English experience is to be in the stands with these guys, no?
Right, absolutely, and you raised a very pertinent point. I really don't think Test cricket has anything to worry about in
Yeah,
terms of its future, because as far as fandom is concerned, it's pretty much there everywhere. Of course, the numbers are going to vary. I mean, you can't really do much about it. That has to be backed up by the sponsors and the think tank. The ICC has to do the needful. But well, as I'm saying this, a picture of Ben Stokes has just popped up
yeah.
on my screen. So the Ashes 2019 is one, another, memorable series, and what a knock that was. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Australia thought they had the game in their bag, but one man felt otherwise, and that's all that England needed then. And of course, Jack Leach, the most important single. So. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the package, because you can't really look at cricket in today's world in just in terms of the game that's being played on the field. It's about the fan experience. It's about how you're selling the game as well. So I think that's the part that Test cricket probably needs to look at. But as far as its future is concerned, as long as the Bami army is there, the Bharat army is there, I think there's
Yeah.
nothing to worry about.
Well said. And why I brought up Stokes is because that summer was in many ways it was England summer because they won
Yeah,
the one day World
right.
Cup for the first time. Forget how they got there. We can go on till the cows come home. But Stokes pulls it off in the World Cup. I was at the Oval in the opening match when he took that free catch to watch him start the World Cup with that insane catch, the catch of the
Yeah,
year, then go on to play that innings in the final, and then literally weeks or maybe a month later to pull
yeah,
off this, and and you said he is in a sense English cricket over the last few years. Now he's
yeah.
now he's Test captain, but England being such a small country, you still get so many diverse crowds, so many diverse
Right.
grounds, and because it's
Yeah,
so small, you can just hop on a train, and in 4 hours there's Birmingham, there's Cardiff, there's
right.
Southampton. It just adds to this really fantastic touring experience. So I hope you get the chance to cover or go. I hope our viewers get a chance to go there because I've been there 3 times. But the 2019
Yeah,
World Cup, just to just hop on a train and and there's good Wi-Fi. You're looking at the rolling. It's all so perfect, and then to be able
yeah,
there to and watch cricket. But I want to pick your brains because I know this innings does it sort of stands out because for our viewers, आपको बता दूं कि this series was tied 2-2. But there
yeah,
was so much going on. This was the return, my friends, of Warner and Steven Smith from that year-long ban, right? Ayan,
yeah.
Broad had Warner's number throughout the series.
Right.
Smith came back. I mean, twin hundreds in one match. He got runs. He got concussed by Archer, who made
Hmm.
his debut that summer. Had he not got concussed, Marnus Labuschagne wouldn't have come. So
Right.
so many things. But when we talk about Ben Stokes, will this match be that defining Ben Stokes Test match? Do you think?
It has to be. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Of course, he's gone on to he will go on to do great things in the remaining days of his playing career. But he'll forever look back at this innings and remember it as that day when he denied Australia. Of course, there was a stroke of fortune. The Australians bungled up the DRS calls, but I mean, when
Yes.
you play that well, you deserve a stroke of fortune, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to England. Just keeping in this on this topic, I'm going to bring up a picture here. I know you will instantly recognize it. I hope our viewers do. This is the Gaul International Stadium. I think, Ayan, as far as Asia goes, and some will say across the world, this is the
Mhm.
most scenic ground, at least in Asia. And
Yeah,
I had the fortune of going there once. This was the 2008 Test match where India were absolutely decimated. मतलब धजियां उड़ा गई in the first match at the SSC where Mendes made his debut. The same
yeah,
Mendes you will recall being a cricket nut who took
yeah,
six for nothing in the Asia 2008 Asia Cup final in
right,
Karachi. India
right.
was sort of reeling under that Mendes impact. They go to the SSC. We've lost Ayan. He'll come back. So, dosto, at the SSC, the first match of that 2008 series, Sri Lanka annihilated India. They smashed India. मेंडिस गॉट विकेट्स, मुरली गॉट विकेट्स, पर जो दूसरा टेस्ट मैच था एट द गॉल स्टेडियम, एंड ये जो आप देख सकते हैं आपकी स्क्रीन पे, दिस इज द डच फोर्ट अगेंस्ट द रैम्पार्ट्स. इट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट सीनिक प्लेसेस टू वॉच क्रिकेट. दिस व्यू जो आपके लॉक स्क्रीन पे है, शिबू सिंह इज सेइंग आई एग्री जेबी, थैंक यू फॉर ऑल योर कमेंट्स बाय द वे. This is the view from the press box side, looking at the field and then the Dutch fort. अगर आप वहां जाके, you can see the little dots on the horizon, people. मैं वहां पे जाके खड़ा हुआ एक दिन, and I watched the match looking down. It's another stunning icon. तो क्योंकि कल वर्ल्ड टूरिज्म डे है, आई वुड encourage people, अगर आपके पास समय है, इफ यू सेव्ड अप सम मनी, इफ यू आर अ क्रिकेट फैन, आप श्रीलंका जाइए और आप खासकर गॉल जाइए. और अगर आप गए वहां पे, तो कोलंबो से गॉल का जो ड्राइव है डाउन द कोस्ट, please do it. There's a train that goes, आप वो ले सकते हैं, but one of the days, please try and take a drive, because you see the lovely blue sea on the side, the waves are breaking, और वहां पे जब आप गोल पहुंचते हो, try to, मेरे दोस्तों, अगर आप मैच देख सकते हो, try to watch a match there. Ayan is back, because this to me, arguably the most scenic ground in the world, but definitely from my experience, Asia का सबसे खूबसूरत ground is this one. Just to come back to that match, India had to win that second match at Gaul. We were there. So many of us had basically written off this team because of how inept that lineup was. Sachin, Lakshman, Ganguly, Dravid. But then this man goes and gets an unbeaten double hundred. Kaun nothing. Gambhir gets runs. Kumble gets wickets. Harbhajan gets wickets. Ishant bowled a fantastic spell on that final day, which I think was a precursor to how well he would go and bowl also in Australia. What memories
Absolutely.
of this match and this series? Because India lost the series, but this match,
Right.
to this day, it's so vivid.
Right, absolutely. To be honest, I was very because the Asia Cup was supposed to be held in Sri Lanka, so I was looking
Yes.
forward to going there and covering the game at Gaul. But when it did happen, it was a bit disappointing, to be honest. I don't have a very vivid memory of the game, but I would say this: there was some really, really Sri Lanka back then was a different test unit. It was
Yes.
a team that was of a different pedigree. You got the Sangakaras, the Jayawardhanes, a very good bowling attack in Mulli and Ragana Herat, and then you had the Fat Five going up against them, and the wickets, of course, in Sri Lanka. For some reason, I've always felt that its batting is a lot more difficult there than it is in
Absolutely.
India. And so to see Sehwag go and decimate attacks and put the fear of God in some of these bowlers was just a fascinating part of my childhood growing up and watching these guys play. So yeah, again, if I were to add one more country to where I would like to go, just as a fan perhaps, if not as a reporter, it would be Sri Lanka. So look forward to going there soon.
Yeah. And somehow just staying on Gaul, because it's such a scenic ground. Spinners really dominate there. Many teams have struggled to go there, but you also see that there's also been a decent amount of help for pacers, which something
Right.
you naturally do not expect from many Sri Lankan grounds. And I think as far as Asia goes, we've seen Pakistan traditionally has not had too many spicy tracks. I mean, this year we saw Australia and Pakistan engage in three fairly dull matches for the
Yeah.
overall. Again, that requires skill, that requires perseverance. But I think of the Asian countries, you still get pretty good tracks overall. What do you think
Right.
about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just Sri Lanka. I think what has happened and a part of India's just going back to my previous point about India's test success also comes
Yeah,
from the fact that these venues in India are preparing much more competitive wickets now, and that also is a part of, well, in a roundabout way, a part of a viewing experience. Because
yeah.
if you were to come to Chepauk, maybe, which is, well, just 5 minutes away from my office here, just a few years back, you think of dust bowl. It's going to keep low and turn. And right now, just recently, the as we speak, the India New Zealand ODI series is going on at
Yes.
Chepauk, and the
Yes.
wickets are lively. There's a lot of good bounce, and it remains that way for 100 overs. Although the games haven't lasted that long, but so yeah, I mean, even in Sri Lanka, that series that you mentioned correctly, Pakistan and Australia. I know it's international cricket coming back to Pakistan. It's Australia going to Pakistan at a time when teams are reluctant to go there. But I think that is an aspect that perhaps the rule makers, the host associations have to keep an eye on, because if you are going to get such star-studded teams together, of course there's no doubt about the fact that you need skill and perseverance and application to even
Correct.
play out. play out a dull match. But perhaps a wicket that has a bit more for the bowlers would go a long way in completely dispelling doubts about Test cricket's future. So these are Sri Lanka, of course, is a tough venue. We saw Australia go there and played out that Test series. They dominated against all odds. They dominated the first game, but then again, it was all like it's pretty much that entire Test series was like a headline that was waiting to be written about how Sri Lanka was going to bounce back and thrash the Aussies. So yeah, a few tinkers here and there in terms of the wickets, and I think these venues are just going to get better and better in terms of viewing experience.
Rightly said about Pakistan, because yes, it was their comeback, the first big team to show up there. But if you want the fans to come, you cannot be rolling out those
Right,
kind of flags. I'm on the same
right,
page. Speaking
right,
of tracks, very quickly, I want to bring up an image here of New Zealand. And for me, New Zealand, I've always associated with an image like this, the Basin Reserve in Wellington.
right,
Now I think now it's called a boutique venue, and I think they play the odd test match there. They don't play white ball matches there. But growing up, this picture, I mean, it sums up a lot of like my cricket watching as a kid. Blue skies, very green, small crowds but very passionate crowds, and then
mm,
some fast bowler, any team always
mm,
succeeding there. I had the
yeah,
fortune of going there during the 2019 World Cup. There was no game there. The games were at the Tin Cup, which is like a few kilometers down the road in Wellington. But
mm,
I paid homage to this ground purely because of this natural beauty, as well as because, like memories of that 99 tour, Azhar batting, Dravid getting 200s, then someone like a Simon Dool just coming. Why are these grounds always associated with fast bowling, man?
yeah, I know. And my first memories of New Zealand cricket in New Zealand were of waking up way too early because of the time difference and the matches
Very early.
happening there very early. So Australia was still manageable, but New Zealand
Yeah, yeah.
was really difficult staying up back then. And one image, of course, the grounds are very scenic, and the conditions, of course. I think of New Zealand conditions and cricket right now. I can just like imagine Trent Bolt swinging the ball both ways, getting left-handers out, right-handers out willy-nilly,
Zero.
and there you go. Yeah, and but one image that stayed with me, a couple of images rather, from one-day cricket in New Zealand were from the 2009 series, I think, when India toured New Zealand. If
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. One was a no look six by Dhoni back when it wasn't known that way. He just like hammered it over long on, I think. And it's been played again and again on YouTube multiple times. And another was of Tendulkar shot over fine leg that flew for six. I remember back then and even now, the talk was always about how the grounds are so small and the big hitters of Team India were going to dominate. And rightly so, because Sehwag just tore them into shreds. The new ball coming in onto the bat nicely and him playing all kinds of his shots that he used to play opening the batting. So yeah, those were the early memories for me for New Zealand. The time difference just
Very
killed
early.
me as a fan growing up.
Very early. But Australia, you we talk about Australia. This is a place
Right,
also slightly better, but again, the same similar because cricket is played there when it's our winter. So inevitably it's school break for in my case, boarding school coming back from North India to Bombay, early mornings. Waking up. Australia also. I mean, and I cannot talk about Australia. A fantastic place to go and just have a break. But the last series that India went there, 2020 21,
right,
because I mean, I just even when I talk about it, I get goosebumps. 36 all out. Oh, this is now the worst team in the world. Virat Kohli's
yeah,
gone home. Literally, Ayan, you know this, and our viewers will also know.
right.
During, before, and after
Mm,
every test match, at least one player gets injured.
right.
36 all out. MCG, fantastic comeback win. The
Mm,
draw for the ages at the SSC. Then to go to the
yeah,
GABA, where, what is it? 30, please correct me, 30 something years.
yeah,
No Australian team had lost. And then
mm.
this second string team goes and pulls off. Where does that series rank? For me, it's tough to choose between 2001 series and this one.
Uh, 2001, of course, it was monumental then. I was a kid. I was just growing up, and I have these very fleeting memories of that game. I've
Yes.
heard my parents talk about it. My brothers, sisters who were then, watching the game live have talked about it and go on and on. But I think for those of us, for the '90s kid grown up, and I think the 2021 tour, that Brisbane Test match, really sums up in many ways
Yeah.
India's domination in Test cricket, and it looked like a series that was straight out of a movie script. For all the reasons that you just mentioned, players falling sick, players getting injured, and by the time they reached Gabba, it was literally looked like a hospital ward, and you just
Yep.
pulled up all the guys that were there in the dressing room and said, boys, let's go play a test match at the Gabba where Australia doesn't lose. And then they, well, not only beat them, and beat them in such emphatic fashion that they just reassert the fact that, well, they are on the way to becoming a very good test team overseas as well.
And just Rahane doing what he did there, getting that 100 at the MCG. I mean, it's got to rank up there along with, I think, personally, his Lord's 100 in 2014. You got Shuman Gill stepping in. No big scores, but he's doing the job.
Yeah,
Rohit, you mentioned the pull shot. I think that series, it sums up how well he plays it as well as
yeah,
how bad he played it. I mean, he
correct.
getting out the lion.
Yeah,
But someone like a Mohammad Siraj, Ayan, making
yeah,
his debut, and by his third test, the leader of that pack. So, I mean,
yeah,
just an outstanding series. I'm going to bring up
absolutely.
one picture of Rishabh Pant if I have one here, because what that guy did, I thought I had a
Yeah.
picture of Pant here. I don't have him, but I'm
And,
just going to
and
bring up this picture. Go on, please.
Yeah, and lest we forget even Natarajan, the way he played, going in there as a net bowler,
Absolutely.
from a small place in Salem to go on not just as a net bowler and then to play all the three formats, make your debut, and in a series decider where your captain is banking on you not only because you're a pacer, but you also have got the left arm variety, and you've got a reputation coming in of a good bowler who's going to land those Yorkers perfectly, and to face the likes of Labuschagne Smith in their backyard at the Gabba. Can't
Yep.
imagine. Great moment.
Yeah, great moment. And this picture, I think, just sums up what it means for so
Right.
many of us, because I remember watching the dying stages of this match. And I'm like, no, 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 something's going to happen. And like my wife, my friends, like, what are you worried about? I'm like, no, I've been through the 90s. I've seen these collapses, but this team definitely turned a corner there. And as you said, what happened in England in that summer, a lot of
Yeah,
it goes back to this series.
absolutely.
Unfortunately, we've totally run out of time, Ayan. We've had so much fun talking about venues. We didn't get a chance to talk about the series. Maybe I'll get you back another day to sort of see, because
Yeah,
I want to ask you specifically how you feel the Indian team has come since the Asia Cup, because that was a tournament where I think they should have won, but we've run out of time. Thank you for your time. Absolute
no
pleasure.
problem.
Appreciate you taking out this time, Ayan.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
And thank you to all our viewers who were there. A lot of comments came. Sorry we couldn't